American Spotlight. Haha. All right. Is everybody in? Let me see. Okay, so good evening. Can you all hear me okay? As you can see, I am back in New York City, just like that. Um, and oh, we have good attendance today. So I hope all of you are as excited as I am. Well, I'm excited because I haven't seen Krysty for what? A few years, at
It
least.
wasn't that long ago. It was just yesterday, basically. Let's just roll that time back. It wasn't too long ago. We don't age, so not too long ago. But yeah, no,
Time
it's been
doesn't
actually a couple of
exist.
years. It doesn't exist.
No,
No,
it
it's been
doesn't
a few
exist
years
for
ago.
us musicians.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the business of just warping the perception of time, right? And
Yes.
we just turn our audiences into little time machines and just like, like wormhole all over the time periods. And yeah, I get it. I get it. So I'm so thrilled that you're willing to come today, and I know you're super busy and to donate your time for this class. I mean, I did promise you like barbecue or whatever your heart's desire, okay? And I'm cooking, so
Yeah.
but it's also a pleasure for me because I have not. I feel like last time we had a real good talk was during the pandemic, when things were very difficult for everyone in opera, not just
Yeah.
in opera but in performing
Yeah.
arts.
Yeah.
And in this room we have lots of kids who literally started college on Zoom. So exactly. So my hearts go out to them too, and it's so different when you and I met in school. So
Hmm.
everyone, Krysty and I'll give the mic to Krysty very soon, but I just have to brag about Krysty a little bit. So Krysty and I met in school indirectly through my mentor, Richard Danielpool, who was at the time writing this opera called Margaret Garner for the New York City Opera production. And I met Krysty one day because my mentor played me a recording of Krysty singing something I don't remember, but I remember the feeling. My feeling was like, oh my God, this is such a like complete artist. Like every note, like she's got depth in every range, and but she doesn't sound young. So what is this recording? What is this whole mystery of playing me this recording? And then my mentor said to me, "You will now believe she's gonna be the cover for Tracy."
Look.
Yes, Tracy. I'm like, just cover? Why doesn't she just take over? So that's how Krysty and I met. We first met just purely through the tone and the sound waves, and me as the audience and Krysty as the artist. So Krysty, why don't you first tell us what you've been working on lately? Like, what do you
uh,
have on your plate right now?
right. Well, yesterday and today I've been preparing for Beethoven Ninth, which isn't a heavy thing, so that's great. I'm doing that next week in Texas. Working on Amneris from Verdi's Aida. I just had the pleasure of working with a young composer, Alex Weiser. I'm saying his name.
Wiserman.
Wise. Yeah,
Wiserman?
no, there's no man. Man, it's just Weiser. If I'm not sure.
Alex
And it's
Weiser.
Weiser. Yes, he's a young gentleman. I met
Glasses.
him and the Apple. Yes, I met. Yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
I
I
met
know
him.
him. Yeah.
So I literally just met him a couple of weeks ago, and it with Kelly Quo was hosting a composers forum thing, and he had three of the different voice types singing, so they can get the different fox within the different. So it's three different mezzos, three different sopranos, three different tenor, and three different baritones, so that they could get an idea of how our fox are different, and just keep that in mind when they're composing things. So last week or a week before that, I was asked to work on a little excerpt for him for the Y on 14th Street Y, and it was Yiddish opera excerpt.
Oh,
So
oh, oh.
my husband, Russian Jewish, but he, I had a little bit of help with it. But I thought, why not? I had made it clear to a lot of the young composers, and I've worked on a lot of new music, and I feel like if I want great pieces to come up or be able to continue this art form, or at least take part in preserving our art form, then it might be helpful if I, help people who are creating our future, the future of our music. So anyway, he created this beautiful piece, and I sang in the ensemble last week. It was not it was it's luscious, a little bit of difficulty, but not, it was just a pleasure to be a part of something else new and very different. So that's what I did last week. We start rehearsal for Lincoln Center Theater. We were working on an opera by Ricky Eden Gordon, and it's Intimate Apparel. We were 3 days from opening last year, and it closed down. So now we're starting rehearsal with that again, December 16th. So I'm preparing that. And I've just been doing like little concerts, a lot of new music. Earlier this year, worked on Nico Mooley piece. Just just being lucky enough to staying active in this scary time. It's much better now than it was maybe 6 to 8 months ago. So I've just been trying to keep my skills activated, keep, practicing, and, keep learning roles and getting ready,
Is how much do you think is a good rhythm for practicing time for you?
Oh gosh, I'm really the wrong person for that. So no, okay, so to learn a complete role depends on what the difficulty in the role and how long the role is. If it's a newer piece, it's going to take me a little bit of time musically before I can get it into my voice. So at least I'm practicing in breaks in the day. So nothing more than 2 hours. You don't want to tax yourself. Nothing less than 30 minutes.
Is this every day? Do you feel like you have to practice
It's
every
supposed to be every day.
day?
After this year, I don't want to lie to you. I was lucky. I was working. I was always singing, so I was always warmed up, and I was always getting coaching because sometimes I need a little bit more help with more complicated pieces or newer pieces. So the voice was always moving. This last year, because this experience was such a traumatic thing, I'm pretty sure I had to kind of like push. There were weeks where I wasn't singing, and I just couldn't find the motivation or the energy. Literally, friends and colleagues, and even with the Nico Mooley piece, there was just a small little organization, and they said, we want to put on this piece, and it was calls like that was keeping me active. Even people that had like a little an oratorio they want to work on or something like that, and so I was literally singing maybe a week to 2 weeks before those little events to keep me going. But I can tell you that this was a very difficult time emotionally and mentally, as it probably was for everybody, most folks, as a musician, because I really do miss the connection. I miss having the audience. I miss singing with colleagues and interacting, and I miss doing what I'm here to do. And it was under threat. Everything was had shut down, and I had never seen that before. So it was a bit of a panic, and a lot of my colleagues were in the same boat. So it was sometimes a struggle to
Mm-hmm.
to sing, to get up. And literally, it was just I kept staying busy with these projects, and that kept me active and doing what I needed to do to keep my voice in shape.
Yeah, I can totally relate. Not only
Mm.
that, I think of you guys, the singers, as sort of the closest metaphor and parallel to composers, because our instrument is literally the body, like the
Mm-hmm.
whole body. So when I, when I'm like when I have all these conflicting, and if I'm not in my body, like feeling
Right.
content, feeling loose,
Right.
like feel like there's energy that is, like settling, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do good work, and I'm responsible for like whatever I write. I have to own up to after I die. I mean,
Right.
in theory,
Right.
like
Right.
I look at dead composers' work, and I can be like, haha, you were having a bad day, haha.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it, and then I'm sitting at my desk. I'm like, well, all my world premieres are postponed indefinitely, and then boxes and boxes of my parts are returned because of canceled performances from all over
Yeah.
the country. And then I was sitting there and I'm like, well, it's my responsibility to practice every day and to be with my art form every day to keep my chops up and all of that. But literally, I'm sitting here and I'm like a bleeding in my heart, and I'm supposed to practice.
Right.
Like, hello, like I got a knot in my throat and I'm supposed to practice,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's just been brutal. I can really relate, especially the emotional impact on
Mm.
the body, which is literally our instruments. So I actually I am recalling a happy time because music making between you and me, I just remember being so thrilled and honored. I mean, you were this rising star, and I asked you if you would play two roles, not one, two roles in my opera that was coming up as this wacky thing. Not even in an opera house, but it was at Carnegie Hall's, the Zanko Hall in Carnegie Hall, and it was going to be a piece that this orchestra has never presented before. It was a concert opera that was original, and I wrote it inside out from libretto to the whole thing. And Krysty, everybody, I want to see a round of applause right now from all of you, okay? However, you can show your enthusiasm for Krysty, I want you to show it on your screen, okay? Krysty just learned like two rows. A There you go, and um, basically two rows that are not even related, like completely, like a million miles apart. First row was this kind of heavenly figure, the boss of the heaven, who happens to be a rat.
Okay.
Krysty was first this, the king of the heaven who happens to be a rat. And then, in a flip of a switch, which is basically changing from scene one to scene two in the same opera, Krysty was a suffering human being, just like all of us, mortals. And Krystie's role was basically this woman who was dying, and she had a baby shoes for sale, and but never worn. So Krystie actually, the class, for those who were in the first and second week of the class, you already heard Krystie in that world premiere recording singing the mortal woman who was selling baby shoes, and that line, that blue note that she hit. Remember, we talked about some of that. That was Krystie also. Okay, and that was one of the memorable things I wrote that I can still live up to today. And it was just its fate was sealed by Krysty, and it was so moving. So Krysty, even to this day, this is what, 12, 13, 14 years later, I'm still playing your baby shoes for sale line to all of my music 1400 kids that you see right now
You
in the
mean that was like 20 minutes ago? That was 20 minutes ago. No, and I'm a sucker for good music because I have a phobia against rats and and I really no, seriously, like any kind of rodent kind of animal, even squirrels, sometimes bunnies don't look right to me. Um so but that second part, the Immortal Woman, that music in there specific was just stunning. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the way it was written, it just felt like it there was room for my voice to get in there. So it was a very pleasurable experience to sing something that my voice was very happy to utilize its chest and all this stuff. So it's beautiful music, and I've been begging your professor to give me my own excerpt so I can use it and record. Just kind of showcase it, because it's just a beautiful piece. The whole piece is actually pretty beautiful. But
Thank you.
yeah, that was a pleasure. That was an absolute pleasure. And this was one of those rare occasions that, like, I would read about the people that I looked up to, or people that got to work with people like Toscanini, or people who got to work with Mr. Barber, Samuel Barber, or something, singers who got to work with a composer while working on. I got to work with with your professor, so I got to coach the music with the composer, so I know the intention. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting it from the source. So that's always a rare experience. And it's always a fortunate experience to be able to talk to the composer and understand what their intention was, and being able to try to articulate that in the piece. So that was also a unique experience.
Oh, thank you, Christy. I really appreciate you took a chance with me, because I was a spring chicken at
But you wrote good stuff. You write beautiful stuff.
uh yeah, I mean, it was really one of those things that are career defining, and you were at the very beginning of that was a big beginning for me, my Carnegie Hall debut, and you were there. And believe me, people still remember it after I returned to the same orchestra. They go back to Carnegie Hall 4 times a year.
Right. Right.
That's American Composers Orchestra. So actually, I was there, 4 years later, I believe, and people still remember the opera. They were like, "Oh, you were that composer. You did that crazy piece." I'm like, "Okay, anything that you guys could remember me by, I'm
It's a
okay
good
with."
sign. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Cause so much um, there's so many things in the world that are forgettable, and but I think something about opera. I'm a believer. I'm a believer in opera. That's how I feel about opera. There's something that is just like so powerful, and so like in all, like it's so beautiful, and it's so complete, it's so
Right.
total in its beauty, that I don't think any other, maybe symphony, but it's
You got
as
some you
good as
got
it
some you
gets.
got
But
some banger hits. You got a
yeah,
couple
but
of
opera, oh my god, there's nothing like it.
well, the moaning and the depression and I have to say, the opportunity of this last year was also to get into, this was the opportunity when everything was gone, to tap into why we're doing this. So this, I will say, that was the benefit of this year. I had to try to find it, because I'm just working and hustling, and I'm moving up here increment. I'm doing the best I can and keep going. And sometimes you're in that and you're not paying attention. And sometimes you will lose, you know, well, what am I doing this for? There are, especially if you live in New York, there's the business aspect that could be a little bit toiling. And then there's the artistic. thing where you get to do what it is you do. And so I will say that through the darkness of it, I had to come back and find that place that said, no, this is what I'm doing this for. And then I'm working I'm making my debut at the Met for Electra in the spring, and then I go back again for Akhenaten. And
Woohoo!
it wasn't those things that I was looking forward to. It was the projects like what I just did last week. I have such gratitude every time I'm talking to other artists. I am so grateful to sing for anyone at this point, or sing, it doesn't matter at this point, because having it taken away for so long, I got to say, oh, this is why I do it. So that was the upside to, if there is an upside to what we just
Of
experienced. I
course.
got to tap into that again.
It's been a reset for me as well, you know. And I just don't get too hung up on the unimportant stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Like, oh, here's all the commission I have. You know, it used to be such a badge of honor, but it's the project that define us.
that's
You know,
right.
it's the project, like the kind of project you and I explored, which was completely crazy.
And fabulous.
Yeah, and anyway, so actually, in this room we have a lot of pictures. So if
Yes, I
any
see
of
pictures.
you feel
Beautiful
like
people.
you want to keep your camera on for our special guest today, I'm sure all of us would be appreciative for because we are musicians again. I'm gonna just be a broken record here. We're musicians, and we get an extra level of fun and excitement when we see that we are actually in front of audiences and in front of people. Because I'm about to get your questions out. Some of you asked really great questions. Okay, so Krysty, are you ready for some questions from the
I think
crowd?
so. I
Yeah,
think
these
so.
these are really good kids. I have to say, at Brooklyn College, one of the privilege of teaching this course, which to be honest, and maybe you guys know this, that actually I don't have to teach these courses at all, but it's my choice to teach this class because I get to be one of the first strokes of almost blank canvases. So although this is supposed to be a theory class, but theory is definitely a part of it. But I think the stuff that you cannot teach is the curiosity for people to make their own discoveries in art, and to keep their mind open to capture beauty, the beauty such as the art form that you and I, that's basically keeping you and I going in this world, because it is unbelievably hard work, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys think that completing this course, doing midterms, final studying for your exams are hard, oh my god. The real world, it is absolutely indifferent to all the difficulties that you think are big deals today. So, but Krysty and I are the living proof that if you believe in something, and if you're willing to sacrifice a good part of yourself for that cause, it is an incredibly rewarding experience that keeps you in the right place. And I think Krysty and I share. That's why she's here today. She doesn't have to come and spend all this time. She's busy. You heard, you know. And so Krysty, again, I'm grateful.
Thank you for having me.
And so here comes a bunch of questions. There are lots of questions. So I'm gonna just I summarized some of your questions. So the most stop doing this. My computer's acting up. 1 second. Okay, let me just get this up right here. Okay. All right. So, a lot of kids are curious. How did you get into music, and did you have any support from your family?
Okay. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I was drafted into the Baptist. I grew up in Southern Baptist churches in Detroit, and I was drafted in choir. And I think I was singing with my grandma and my family in court and my cousins since I was like 6. Uh, I think this is going with another question, or someone might ask this too, as to did I know what I want to do? I always knew I was going to go into music. I didn't know it was going to be classical music until middle school. But I sang in choirs the whole time, sometimes without choice. I absolutely loved it. It was a great way to commune with my family. I come from, on my maternal side, everyone can sing. They are self-taught pianists. Also, I am a horrible pianist, but I play clarinet. And my mom, for not so for my artistry or as a musician, she had me learn clarinet. But I had to start playing clarinet from, I think, second or third grade, and I played that throughout high school and a little bit throughout college. So because she bought the instrument and I couldn't stop playing it because we just, you don't buy instruments not to be used. So I didn't really have a choice. And it was also to help me with my asthma. So that was my exposure to classical music, or, like concert band repertoire. And then I got into more concert choirs and things in middle school. Middle school, I said, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to do music. In ninth grade, my high school choral teacher let me listen to Leontine Price and Maria Callas, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. That was it. I grew up singing a lot of gospel music. I grew up having a huge love for rock and grunge rock, huge love for R&B, soul music from the 70s and the 80s. But we were listening to everything. We were listening to Pet Shop Boys. Well, I don't start to some people, but I had an affinity for the Doors, Joy Division, Nirvana, Tori Amos, and Luther Vandross, Sam Cooke, Donny Hathaway. So it's like it was a very rich music scene in Detroit. Period. We have the house music and all these other things. So I love that. But what I loved about classical music is I could use my whole voice. Whereas if I'm singing R&B, or I grew up singing with older singers in Southern Baptist churches, so you're singing traditional spirituals. I wasn't even singing the fun gospels. I was singing, like, going back to where work songs evolved to these spirituals we sang, where you're doing a lot of crooning, a lot of melismas, but it's not it's percussive or what have you. Very, very, soulful, very slow, evolving from slave songs, work songs, and things like that. So I was singing with and matching pitches with older gentlemen who were like in their 70s and 80s. That's where I started learning to sing, which I think contributed to why I have such a lower range, because I had always matched pitch with older people. But with classical music, I could use the full range. I found a way to amplify my whole voice when I'm singing spirituals, or I'm singing something R&B or anything that's of a popular. I'm changing the way the technique a little bit, and I don't always want to. I don't do a healthy belt, so I just try to stay away from that. But with classical, I was able to release disparity and Wagner repertoire. I could just, be as loud as I want to be and unapologetic about it.
Well, the concert hall is built for that.
Yeah, yeah. And I finally could say, "Hey, look, that's what I'm supposed to do, Mom, Dad."
And how did they did you run into any resistance from anybody?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I keep talking to people who are trying to figure out what they want to do. I knew what I wanted to do early, but I dealt with a lot of obstruction. A lot of it was, in my family environment. I'm in the Midwest. It wasn't practical to say you want to be a musician. Not to mention, I want to go to school and study classical music.
Oh
Um,
no.
it's a noble thing, but you don't make money off of it. So my mom was very upset about it. My dad used to say, and it's very not PC, but he would say, I would prefer you to be a doctor, lawyer, or Indian chief than be a musician. Anything but that. and they were definitely against it. I didn't stop, but I did have to develop B plans. What ended up happening in my when I was graduating from high school, I got an interlocking, and unfortunately, I got a full ride scholarship, but unfortunately, my mom was terminally ill. And before she passed away, the deal was I get a practical degree first, and then I can go into music. And I think she thought I would have changed my mind. And my dad helped me keep up that end of the bargain. So I got a liberal arts general studies degree. And then I finally got to do music, start studying music formally after that. So I'm also a late bloomer. I had a late start to my formal training, but it was definitely to get here. There were a lot of no's. There were a lot of what or a lot. You want to be an opera singer, There were a lot of where's the money in that? Even while I was going to Manhattan School of Music, while I was going into my program in Michigan, there were always questions on Thanksgiving. So what are you really going to do with your life? Like, no, I'm really an opera singer, that's what I'm going to do, and that was at home. Out in the world, it was even, you get stronger when you defined what you're doing and you've been told no a lot. You're still doing it, you know how to take rejection and you know how to get no's and get around those no's. So I got a lot of that at first. It took people seeing like credits they recognize or Carnegie Hall. Then they started taking me seriously. And then my dad went to everything to this day, he goes to everything I do. He's my number one supporter. And it's great. It's great to still be here after all of that, like you have to know what you want to do and you have to be serious about pursuing this. I don't recommend you doing this because you have a love of it. I recommend you doing it because this is what you absolutely must do. If you must do something else, if you can do something else, I would recommend that because it's not the art form. It is everything around it to build a career in this. That will be the struggling. So you better be in love with that process, or find a way to fall in love with that process so you can stick to it.
Oh, beautiful. That is not only beautiful, but very important because, I'm sure you and I both have seen very talented and way ahead of you and me in terms of their talent and their competence, skills,
Absolutely.
and they just drop off. They just
Every
disappear.
day.
They die like
And
flies. That literally, like how many singers go through your program, Krysty? Did you have a ballpark?
I mean, the year I got to MSM, they took 20 singers for their undergrad and master's program.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very competitive. Now they take in more names and what have you, but it used to be a little bit even more. It was competitive, but now it's competitive because the numbers there are more numbers here.
Mm-hmm.
The best, they're going to have to come here. If you're going to do this, you have to come through here at some point. You have to come through New York City at some point. So that's just the way it is. So the best is here, and what you have is a lot of big fish from everywhere else. One of the benefits for me starting my studies later, is by the time I got to do what I wanted to do, I'm like, I'm not here for games. I wasn't trying to be the head cheerleader. I had already gone past that because of my life experiences before getting to that point. So that was the benefit of starting later. There wasn't a confusion. There wasn't like I didn't go in the room thinking I'm going to just win. I knew I was going to have to compete, and I knew I was going to have to be good in something like classical music. And being a Black girl from Detroit, I'm going to have to work 10 times harder. But that wasn't that I was brought up with that kind of work ethic anyway. And it was almost like this is just what we have to do. So when I got here, I didn't have a crash. A lot of people are so wonderful. Even last week, I'm always surrounded by some of the most talented musicians, singers, I mean, all of the time. And luckily, by the time I started this, I still had a humility. So I never looked down if someone said, I'm not doing this anymore. I never said, "Oh, you're quitting" or something. I said, this was how much you could do, because that's really just a matter of it's how much endurance you can. Is it worth it? Is it worth enduring all the extra things to get to what you truly love about this? And you put up with as much as you want to put up with. And when you're done, that's totally okay too. So I always have a little bit of passion for that. I walk with a bit of grace, see how long I can do this, you know what I mean? Because it's not, again, it's not for the faint hearted. It's not something you say, oh, I think I want to try it. No, no, no.
No, 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 no,
Mm-mm,
no,
mm-mm,
no.
no.
Can't try.
But what I will say, because I didn't, we fall into this, especially as performers. We can't help it. Sometimes how people perceive, how their perception of us sometimes affects us. And what I would tell myself before is that those opinions don't matter, and they never mattered. And you don't have to put that kind of pressure on yourself going forward. If you decide you want to keep doing this, you make it because you want to do it, because this is what you love. You don't put this in the hands of anyone else's opinion. I would tell everyone, don't listen. If someone says, oh, you're not going to make it, please don't listen to them, because they don't have to do this journey with you. I've seen so many stories of all of these people that did everything the right way, and they're not performing now. And it's our loss. They didn't do anything wrong. They did everything right, but there's no guarantee. So with our pattern as performers, there is no like set standard. I'm going to take these group of classes, go to this school, and I'm a doctor. That's not how that works here.
Can you pinpoint maybe um, a moment? Maybe it's the beginning of those moments where you realize um, there is no life for you if you don't do this. Um,
So I always talk to people about this a little bit, and I just, because it's also to remind myself. So when I got into Manhattan School of Music, I was in a beautiful little program, little liberal arts program in Michigan, and it was in Oakland University. It wasn't even U of M. I didn't even, by the time I knew how much money U of M had for their program, I was ready to get out of Michigan. I knew if I stayed in Michigan, I would not sing. Well, I said, okay, I have to leave this little safe place. I had a great teacher and a great community of students. I'm godmothers to their kids, all that kind of stuff. It was my safe space, and I had to leave that because I said, I really need to do this. And I started auditioning for different schools. I didn't know what I was doing. My dad just said, okay, let's go for it. And I didn't know what I was doing. I think I auditioned for as many of the top schools I could, 5, because I could only afford 5. And then 3, I got into 3 of them. I got an NEC, Eastman, and Manhattan School of Music, full ride scholarship. At the same time I found out I got into these courses, I found out I had stage 1 breast cancer. So
oh no.
for me, I got my practical degree, and I'm the eldest of 5 kids. So I'm one of those people that do believe in having a B plan or a backup plan, or I used to. I lost my mom from breast cancer 5 years prior to me getting diagnosed with it. So to me, it let me know right then there's a time clock. And instead of being like my mom, who was a perfectionist, a hard worker, and someone who was like did superhuman feats, and and was bipolar, but got all this shit done in a certain amount of time, she didn't taste what she worked for. She was still, trying to, she was still hustling. And for me, I said, okay, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have gone to some of the most beautiful places, or have, get to some place or be around someone and not be able to feel what that is. I'm being told, or I felt like I'm a very spiritual person. So I thought that was a sign from God saying, well, you have a time on you, so you might as well do what you want to do, as opposed to what people are telling you should do or what you're supposed to do. And this is before 9/11. And I mentioned that I got into the school in 2004, but before 9/11, you had a lot of people saying you want to always have a backup plan. Up until this point, after 2007, you see that all those backup plans, doing everything you should do, it's not a guarantee that you're going to have security overall.
Exactly.
So You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I don't
Mhm.
mean to make it a long story, but I'm saying I got like that little voice in the back saying, "Oh no, time doesn't wait for you. So you might as well go ahead, get rid of those B plans and jump full into doing what you said you wanted to do because you don't know how much time you got." So my priorities were different than my colleagues when I was getting in school. You know, one, I was a few years older than the other students that just got there. I had the issue with dealing with the grief and then the possibility that I might go by the same way my mom did. So I had no time. Plus, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and you know, there's a practicality to it. There's no expectation. I didn't have a sense of entitlement because I was very much aware that no one was going to give me anything. You know what I mean? So I went in saying, well, I'm just going to go and try to figure it out. You know, there are a lot of better opportunities now, which are, it's great. There's a shift I'm feeling coming out over the last few years that I wish I had that kind of energy. But I'm also happy that I got that little test saying, you don't have to be here. So if you're going to be here, what do you want to do? I want to sing. So that was the priority. When I got into Manhattan School of Music, I wasn't trying to be the star there, or I needed to get whatever I need to get work. That's all I was concerned with. You know, that's
Mhm.
why I don't know when you remember, I never had like a diva persona.
Nope,
Cover
you
Five
didn't.
Girls anyway. I don't, because I had a rude awakening too early. So I kind of had a little bit of like, oh, this is sort of what's important. This kind of stuff is not. And if I hadn't had that experience, I would have had the panic attacks and absorbed all of the priorities that you get when you're 19 and you're 20, you're living your life. I came in with rude awakenings right away. So I was just like,
Well,
okay, whatever I need to do.
I found your at least at the time you were I remember your humility was just so inspiring for me. You know, I was also pretty I was a struggling composer at the time, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
my program was also very competitive and there was a lot of no's around me. No, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
no.
Mm-hmm.
You are this Asian looking thing. Why aren't you writing Chinese music? Aren't you betraying your heritage? This is from Pierre Boulez. Okay. Yeah. Well, since
From
we're
the
on
people we
this.
look up to, for
Oh,
them, I
exactly.
mean,
I mean,
yeah.
Pierre Boulez was like before he still is in some
Mm-hmm.
circles, but
Yes, he is.
particularly in our student days, he was kind of a god
Yep.
in our field. And to have Pierre Boulez tell me in my face, uh, uh, aren't you betraying your heritage? In the meantime, my entire training was European and basically Soviet and European.
I mean, I don't know. We don't have enough time, you know, for that conversation, but it's very similar experiences here. But again, when you have the clicking time bot, or I know how hard it was for you had to get over here, you make decisions different than when you have a little bit of time and a little bit of privilege to kind of relax and live your life as a young college student, have fun and go through all the normal things that you go through. We kind of go in with this yoke or this kind of the baggage, but there is the good thing about it is you're already coming in there with a turtle shell. You're already coming in there kind of tough. You're ready to go. In New York City, you do have to have that, you know, too many wonderful people around here. And I used to say, and it also keeps firing me. And I don't want to be negative, but I feel like the road throughout Broadway, you see the road is paved on the back of some of the most gifted and talented people that have
Absolutely.
been born and died without any acknowledgement,
Correct.
you
Yes.
know?
Hmm.
So it's a privilege to get a chance to do what I'm doing, but it's also a little bit of a privilege to come in with this thing like, oh, I want to sing until I have to leave here. I you know what I mean? I want to taste something of what I want as opposed to what people are telling me I'm supposed to take to take,
Hmm.
you know, because it's my time, you know, and I do want to, if I don't have anything else that's helpful, I do want to send that to the younger people. This is your time. And when you get to wherever you want to get to, whatever your discipline is, whatever your dreams are, you're doing that alone. You might find a significant other. You might have your children. You might have your parents. You might have, or maybe you're alone. But you're on that stage alone doing that. You're practicing alone. You are learning that stuff. So this is your time. And so if you can, which is very difficult, because it's about, judgment and auditions and all these other things. But if you can try to get to the core and say that the only person's voice that really matters the most should be yours. Right? If you can get that into you right now, that will save you a lot of extra, therapy, heartache, and all that other stuff. So you can concentrate on the hand. Do I know I did the best I could? Then I don't know what this person here is saying, or I don't care what this critic is saying, because that doesn't have anything to do with how I feel about what I'm doing. If you can get that centered right now, you're going to be head and shoulders above the rest of us.
Yep. Well, I really appreciate what you're saying, Christy. And there is actually a somewhat related question about, since I think both of us kind of brought this up in the air already. So this question is, what are some of the reactions you get as Black women in opera when traveling within the United States and abroad?
Well, it's changing now. Like the last year has been like some of the biggest changes I've ever experienced. But I mean, I think it falls into generation. But last year, post the George Floyd murder, our organizations, our union, our singing union, it has our dancers, some of our orchestral members. We started meeting up as artists to kind of create a support environment. And we were doing it through the union. And then we had one that was specifically, in my case, Black opera singers. They were students, they were people in the midst of their career, and they were people who had retired, all of these people in one room. And we realized when we were in the room, we all had the same experiences.
Wow.
Regardless of where the generations, we felt we all knew what it was like to have people out of touch. And sometimes it's a physical thing. Sometimes it's someone putting their hands in your hair. We definitely got a lot of what we should not be doing, what we won't be doing, what repertoire we shouldn't be doing, what we're not appropriate for, simply because of what we look like, what we should, all of these things being sifted in. But we had a lot of the microaggressions in common. We had a lot of the straight out. We've had a lot of those experiences, which was disheartening. At first, it was like, oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. You had a relief, but then you're like, like, this is now 2021. This should be ending. Students shouldn't have the experiences and relate to what I've experienced. It should be getting better. And I think in many ways it is getting better. But in this country, we did a concert, which was already something controversial happened, and someone had to pull out because they were about to have their little baby. And I had the privilege of doing a concert with Denise Graves, who is one of my favorite opera singers, who was the first Margaret Garner.
That's true.
Dr. Daniel.
Denise Graves, yes.
I got the privilege of being on the same stage with someone I look up to and absolutely adore. And we were doing a concert to commemorate, or at least draw attention to the Tulsa massacre, which was something it was interesting being a part of. I had never been in Oklahoma. I've never physically visited that area. And you can see that there was a community of people that were really trying to move forward and uncover everything. We weren't talking about this a few years ago. I mean, we had a television show that let people know about the massacre. But it's 2021 in May, and you're thinking, okay, it looks like we're taking some strides ahead. But in the midst of being in a town like that, you could see much of the community, they weren't participating in the healing process or bringing this information out. So you still saw much of the same. So I almost brought my New York cynicism there, because I was like, I'll believe change is happening when I see it. It was wonderful and a privilege to be part of that. I was around we had 28 Black composers from all around the world, and we got to hear wonderful music that we couldn't have highlighted otherwise. But it was very disappointing in another end because I felt like still there was a huge part of the community that really didn't care. So that's when I have to do cognitive dissonance a little bit. And this is me as the artist doing my job. And this is me as the human being. And I have to find that a lot of us that don't fit into the normal categories have to find that place to dance. It's like me singing Wagner in Die Walküre. There's nothing more glorious than the third act in Die Walküre and Wagner. But this person is one of the most vile human beings, but he made this work. So you have to, like, how do I wrap my mind off of this? I'm an artist. I'm in the middle of Tulsa because I have to then say it's not about how I feel in that moment, but it's more about showcasing some of this gorgeous music that no one heard of
Mm-hmm.
until we started putting a spotlight on. That's my responsibility as an artist. So I
Mm.
kind of had to zero in on that. That was just, I mean, I didn't mean to make another long story, but that was the experience that I had that happened in May. I've had people come up to me, oh, aren't you tired of playing a maid? Donors. I've had,
Oh my God.
or you must be tired of playing a maid, or how did you get into opera? And usually what I would get depends on the context and who you're talking about. I mean, how does someone that's Black in Detroit get into classical music? Oh, a Black opera singer, never heard of that.
Oh
Uh,
God.
Some of it just washes over. And I know that people like Denise Graves, and then I know people like Leontine Price and Shirley Barrett have even heard work. So, I mean, I see that there's a change. The thing about Pierre Boulez, this last couple of years, this generation coming up, they're not, there's something shifting. Same thing with the Me Too movement, same thing with the LGBTQ community. It's something is happening where at least there's an accountability because now we have this social media blaring it. And through all of its faults, this is something that I didn't experience 10 years ago. I didn't wear extensions until I had, excuse me, white males telling me I need more hair and not to cut my hair off. I cut all my hair off in 2008. The hair discussion has completely changed. These were powerful agents. And there wasn't a community or an agency behind me to say, how dare you tell this Black woman how to wear her hair? And then I would tell my white colleagues, like, did I experience? And they would be in disbelief. They're like, who's telling you how to style your hair? They hadn't experienced that. And then we've all experienced things with people discriminating against age and weight. So I still see elements of that, but I also see that the resistance is stronger than I've ever seen it before. And the calling out of this behavior is more at the forefront. And I think obviously from our ability to voice our concerns on social media and to join together in that way. But before last year, you know what I mean? I it was, we were just like, let me just get to where I need to get to, then I can make a change. And that's what you would have to wait for. You got a good credit, and then you would draw attention to something, you know.
That's pretty
So
much where I am too. Yeah. Yeah. I
it's a
I
different
can't
world.
I can't really send any messages that anybody would pay attention to if I actually didn't have all these, these trophies. Oh yeah, she this group of panels thinks she's okay. Oh, that colleague of mine thinks she's okay.
Isn't that
Okay,
something?
maybe she's okay. Okay, maybe we can take what she says seriously, regardless of what she looks like. She looks like
Right.
she's 13 years old, but you know what I mean. It's not
Yeah.
my fault that I look young.
It shouldn't even
uh,
be it shouldn't even be part of the conversation. But that and I'm seeing it. I'm seeing across the board, but at least now I'm seeing people getting in trouble for it. We used to say a lot of things and didn't have to think twice about it.
yep,
And
yep.
so that part is definitely good, but then it's not good that we still have people that feel the need to go in that direction. We still got
Well
work to
said.
do.
Well said. Well said. Are you ready for one more question? This I can't pick. These are all such good questions. This one might be short and sweet. What do you think about when you're performing?
Well, um, I'm usually trying to. My job is to tell a story and to be the character. So I'm usually. It's very. I consider myself a very empath, of course. So it's. I've never had a problem with finding the sensuality of a piece that I'm working on, even if it's a piece that's very difficult or I don't like it right away. I end up wrapping myself within it, and it doesn't take long for me to let that music wash over me and to try to use myself as a vessel to get that story out. So I'm always trying to stay connected to the text of what
Mm,
I'm saying. What am I saying? Who am I saying it to, and why? You know, and there are many times where, oh, okay, I got it. And there's a lot of times where I don't stay as connected as I should. I'm like, oh my God, I was flat. Or, oh my God, that guy fell asleep, or, and I
yeah, I
just
know
have to
what you
kind of
mean.
like, wait a
Yeah,
minute, get back into what you're saying. And I'm just trying to stay in that place. And when I'm clicked into there, that is the crack for me, especially when I'm doing it with other singers on stage. We kind of click into that place. That that's the crack for me. That is the drug that I'm always chasing. When you
yeah.
can get into that communal thing, when you're with that pianist and you are really collaborating on that level, there is nothing better. I'm not even playing. So that to me is what what I'm doing this for those little experiences where I'm connected still to that person that's
Mm.
not me. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Of course, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have said it better. I mean, I can relate to it, but composers do it much more privately in our own room. When I feel like I'm not putting out any effort and the stuff comes out simple, not a lot of notes, but it just is, and it's beautiful. Fewer notes, and I know I'm onto something. I have a feeling that I'm onto something. It
Mm-hmm.
really is. Yeah, I can't live without those moments, and I'm always chasing after those moments. And I think part of it, showing up every day, because every day is pretty much almost every day is average. But every once in a while, like, oh, that happens. Yeah.
I I started feeling like an opera singer. I call myself an opera singer, and then also if I wasn't doing music, I'd be like an anthropologist. But we're also conservationists, the singers. We are supposed to be conserving that music, and so I'm having those a different conversation where you're talking to the people, the composers that have passed away of old. I'm still having that conversation too. And it's so awesome. I'm singing something that was written yesterday. And then I'm also singing something that was written 65 years ago or
Mm.
100 years ago. And they are feeling some of the same things, the same angst, the same butterflies that I was feeling. And I get to tell that story to someone else to grab that and they tell that story. So that is the awesome thing too. We're tying ourselves into this fraternity of it's really something else. And the world can't go without it. They might think they can, but they need it. They need us, and to tell these stories further. But I'm like, Mozart is still alive, or Beethoven is still alive, or you have these people that have written these beautiful spirituals. They're still here, you know, because we're communing in that. So at that point, I look at it as a very spiritual thing, and it's
Mm.
I'm grateful when I get a chance to tap into that too.
That's a
Yeah, very,
resonate.
right.
Yeah, like vibrate. It's all about the vibes. It's all about the
Yeah,
vibration, isn't it? Like
yeah.
it has to be felt. The language can't touch these things. Language is very good at lying, but feelings, oh my God. You wanna deceive yourself? Like, I paid bad price for deceiving my own feelings about what kind of music that I know that I really wanted to write.
Right.
It's just years of, and then it really like it toxified inside me to not connecting to what this instrument is
Hmm.
designed to do, or what I should be doing because of what I look like or what the fashion has been. You know what I mean? Like
Yes, yes,
all
that's
of those
all.
things. All right, last question, and then um, this is also really interesting. How do you mentally and physically prepare yourself before a show?
I meditate. I do breathing exercise. I literally have a program where it tells me when to breathe because I can't just sit and say I'm meditating. I have like breathe in, breathe out. I have to do breathing meditation 15 minutes before the performance. It's where I have to just kind of cloak. I like to turn the lights off. Once I'm warmed up vocally, then it's just about trying to shut all the extra voices out so I can tap into that concentration. You know,
Oh wow,
yeah, it's definitely
breathing
meditation
work.
some key.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
if I can get a walk in before, that would be great. Maybe a 10-minute walk, but definitely every time it's always 15-minute breathing exercise and meditation before.
Wow. Okay, so we are almost out of time. We let's see. I'm gonna open up the room. If anybody have any of you, if you want to just unmute yourself, raise your hand if you have a follow-up question. Now that you've met Krysty in the flesh, and uh, do you have anybody have a follow-up question? Feel free to raise your hand, and then I'll let you unmute yourself. I see a hand. Chad, go ahead.
Mhm.
Hey, good evening.
Hi,
Um,
Ken.
so what kind of sort of like what project are you working on currently?
Oh, so I'm working on my favorite composer, Verdi. So I'm working on Aida, and I'm doing Amneris, which is a fantastic part, uh, and vocally. I find that the Verdi repertoire is very suited in my voice. I'd love to have the opportunity to sing it more, but that is anything from Verdi that I'm working on. Well, my favorite is Eboli from Don Carlo, which is a fantastic opera. And Aida Amneris is absolutely extraordinary. So I'm tearing the text apart now to make sure that every bit of Italian is internalized. That's what I've been doing now, which is sometimes more difficult than doing the fun part, which is singing it. But that's what I'm doing now. That's what I was.
Nice. Thank you, Chad. Another hand is up. Ryan, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi,
Um,
Ryan.
s- so my question is, where has been your favorite place, or like what place that you've performed, like has been the most significant to you, and why?
Israel. So I had this great music program, and I got to stay in Israel, in Tel Aviv, for 3 months. We did this intensive. The year I went, they brought all these singers from all over the world, and they were all very good, and they were all really awesome performers. So it was one of the best educational experience I got. But what was great is we all had set productions we were a part of. All of our performances were packed. Every performance we had, it could be a song concert, an actual opera. I never experienced an audience that was so hungry for the music that we were trying to give. We even had musical theater concerts. They were there for everything. I never felt so much. I felt I was so grateful to be around all those fantastic singers, but that audience, I have never experienced something like that. I can't explain it. I didn't expect it. I had beautiful spiritual experiences there, but honestly, I was just like, I never said, "Oh, I'm going to go to Tel Aviv." I was, "Oh, I want to go to Italy. I want to go to Bruges. I want to go to Paris. I want to go to South Africa." This was one of the best experiences for me as an artist and as someone who's learning about my craft, to be around people that get what you're doing, they want it, and they appreciate it. It was absolutely intoxicating. It was the best experience. I was in 2000 2008, I think. I had that experience. It was fantastic, but I'm chasing that. I got to sing Ebony, my favorite role, and I got to sing this scene with this. He's now a really famous tenor, and he's one of the loveliest, most awesome, but he's so amazing. He's a Korean tenor, Young Hoon Lee, and he is absolutely fabulous. And I got to sing with Scott Bearden in this third act of Don Carlo. I don't know if Maestra can find that at some point to let you hear how awesome, because this is just one of those things where shit hits the fan. And I sang with these two voices, and I remember my knees buckled. Yeah, this is it. I said, "Oh, more of this, please. This is what I like." These voices were just hitting me, and then something in me was like, I just wanted to be better, and I wanted to sing more, and I just wanted to just get in there. And we had the greatest coaches. My teacher, Ming Yan Dunn, who was one of the best mentors that ever walked the face of the earth. She was there. It was just it was my favorite and my best experience as an artist and as a student. You know.
Wow. Well, what we want to see is your video of doing Don Carlo the third act.
Okay, but we need to work. Just tell them, to put me in there. I'm working on it. I don't have a video yet, but yeah, we need to.
Yet meaning
tell
it's
them
coming,
that
right?
to get. Sorry.
Yet meaning it's coming. Yes.
Yes, it's coming. It's coming. I'm putting it on there. That's the point. I think God can take me after I get to do that role on stage with an orchestra and a great conductor. Yes, then I'm like, do what you need to do.
Wow. Well,
that is my favorite thing ever in life.
On that note, this is I don't know these. This room full of kids. Okay, I hope you guys know how lucky you are. I don't know that you know this, but
I feel lucky.
Have we have a very special. This is very special because Krysty is has been in my view has been the exception, because she is exception, and so that's how I could set this up for you all. And I learned a lot from you today, Krysty, and just watching.
You can feel free to reach out, or if you have a question about something.
Yeah.
Anything, any specific question you're having or anything you're experiencing. If I don't know the answer, I can find someone that does know or can know. So don't hesitate. We're all on social media. We're all going to be connected anyway. So, just I do extend that invitation.
Yeah. So with your permission, of course, I know that some of them would even consider a life in music, and then I'm sure this conversation would stay. At least it's gonna stay with me for a while. And it's such a privilege that I got to know you for so many years, and I had a hunch that you would stay. You would be one of the ones who stick around. Yeah. I was like, fellow soldier in the trench.
Yeah, we're in the trenches. We're in the trenches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're in the arena, and we're definitely owning up to all the failures and all of it. The bad, the worst, and the ugly, and then when it's good, it makes life worth living, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And it's good because of some of the failures too. It can only get better when you go through that kind of stuff.
Yep, and failures are definitely one of those things that's a kind of prerequisite of doing anything meaningful. And that's topic for another day. And these kids are about to find out how to fail spelling a triad for the rest of the semester.
I'm going to leave you guys for that because theory, we didn't, thank you for not asking me any theory questions. I don't know how to, guide you guys through that one, but good. That's good.
They're all doing pretty well, considering this
Of course.
unfortunate circumstance that everything is online. Imagine all the music making in the same room. You know, I so these kids have not experienced that, and not at least not with
I'm
me.
sorry.
Yeah, my
Yeah, not
classes are
yet.
yeah, my classes tend to be very interactive. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna let you go, Christy, and then I'm gonna actually after I wrap up with this class, I'm gonna FaceTime you
Yay.
for
Okay.
about
And
five
I'll just start
minutes.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for listening to me go on and having me in one of your classes. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some stuff. But again, if you have any questions or what have you, go ahead
Woo.
and give me
There's
a message. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know
everybody.
where that is, but I'll find it.
There's so many thank you in the chat, Christy, for
Thank
you,
you. I
and
see. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me any theory questions though. I don't. Can't help you. Thank you. No, 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 no.
Oh wow, they're all flooding in.
No.
Yeah.
Hi.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I'll see you in a few minutes, Christy.
Okay. See you later. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, class. So that was super special. You guys, I'm so privileged to share this gift with you. Especially, in this pandemic. And you guys asked great questions. I want to just reiterate that. And Christy's right, and I agree with her. It's like your generation, almost like you guys are raised on different air and water or something. Even when I was in Knoxville and I went to the concert, and there were so many younger people in your age group at the concert hall, and that's very different atmosphere than pre-pandemic world. So I'm super proud of all of you, and I sent you a message about the second part of the class, and it is equally inspiring to be inside the classroom of what Christy and I when we were in music school, and that's what the classroom might look like for composers and musicians. So that classroom in the video that I sent you guys are actually not exclusively composers. It's actually it you know Christy was from the opera department, and she would likely be in that classroom as well as a musician. So I think it's highly applicable to the second half of our semester, because we're gonna be diving into chords and the vertical world. And this clip has some beautiful moments of this very important person, Nadia Boulanger. She kind of lives in the heart and soul of an entire four generations of composers and musicians, and being that this class literally is a fundamental class. Okay, we do want you guys to walk away with some of the fundamental dynamic that is how music is explored in these classrooms that you otherwise would not have access to in a general liberal arts college. So enjoy, and I will see you next Wednesday, and we will dive into the nerdy, geeky part of the chords and whatever accompanies the chords. Okay? Enjoy your weekend, and see you next week. Bye for now.